Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Ask Dr. Be Good show, the show where we share the practice, the pedagogy, and the politics currently happening in public education. As always, I ask that you write your name in the comments when you come in and let me know your thoughts, your observations, comments, and questions about the topic being discussed. I'm a longtime teacher, and I enjoy having an actively participating class. So please be active in your comments and your thoughts and your questions around the topic so that we can further the discussion and further your education around this. And more importantly, thanks for being here to continue your work as a public ed advocate. As always, I like to bring on people who reflect not only, the good, strong upbringing that their education gave them, but the unique things that they're doing, especially those that are doing it at a very young age. And so we have Mallory Fuller joining us today. And Mallory has done a couple of things which I'd like to highlight. But Mallory, tell us a little bit about your education, your school background, and then we'll go into talking to you about your pageant background and the fact that you have already had a book published at your tender age. So congratulations on that. Let's learn about how that happened.
Yes, so I am from a very small town, Fairfield, Texas. And so I graduated from Fairfield High School, and then I went on to get my bachelor's degree at Texas A&M University. And now I am a graduate student at Baylor University. So I had an incredible upbringing from Fairfield High School, which really prepared me to be successful in college and grad school.
What are you majoring in?
So my major right now is I am getting a Master's of Communication in Sciences and Disorders from Baylor to become a speech pathologist. Sorry, okay, well, very long.
We don't have enough speech pathologists, that's for sure. Gosh, as we get more sophisticated in understanding, really identifying the disabilities that kids have, we're finding we don't have enough people to help us with that. So it's a great thing that you're doing, going into that area. So, and you said you're from a small school and in a small town, and yet you got a great education. How did that get you to the pageant world?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. How did you, coming from a very small town, lead you to the pageant world?
Right. So I was actually led to the pageant world through my family. I have two older sisters, and then my mom also competed in the Miss Texas organization when she was younger. She actually represented our county, Freestone County, when she competed. So that was amazing for her, and it was what led me to compete in the Miss Texas organization. And I absolutely love being able to represent my small town at Miss Texas. They are so supportive and so encouraging throughout my journey, and I love being able to represent Fairfield.
And I sort of have a special place in my heart for pageants and competitions because I'm still on the Asia World board, and Asia World, these are young ladies who represent the Asian countries in this area. They compete every 2 years for the Miss Asia World. It's Ms. for the older ladies and Miss for the young ones. And part of what my work was, being on the board and being part of that competition with them, was to help them sort of get the competition and pageant into the 21st century and getting it away from sort of idolizing the female thing and making it a female empowerment. Is that happening in the Miss Texas pageant?
It actually is. So the Miss America organization made a switch in 2018 to the Miss America 2.0, and we removed the swimsuit competition. And it really has become about empowering women and empowering our voices and what we can do. For me, that's suicide prevention. I have been able to do a ton of advocacy work with suicide prevention, like writing my book, Henry's Happy Heart. And so it's been an incredible shift to see the way that it has kind of moved away from this ideal of beauty and grace and all of these different things to also, in addition to all of these wonderful things, advocating for things that are important to us in our education. And just, there are some incredible, incredible women in the Miss America organization today, and I am honored to be a part of it.
So what did you learn? Because you brought the skill and your special passion and interest to them. What did you get from them by competing in that pageant?
In the Miss Texas pageant?
Mhm.
Wow. So I was only 14 years old when I stepped foot on the Miss Texas Outstanding Teen stage. And I was the most awkward, self-conscious child you have ever met. So being able to compete in the Miss Texas organization has given me so much. It has given me so much confidence. It's given me opportunities to further my social impact of suicide prevention. And it's just really built me into the woman that I am today. And I honestly don't think that I would have gone to grad school or achieved the things that I had if it weren't for my experiences in the Miss Texas organization.
Well, and that speaks highly of that work. You know,
Mhm.
people still have an old-fashioned belief around pageants, and it's nice to hear that the pageant has sort of moved into the 21st century along with the rest of us, right? And that they have used that as an opportunity to empower young ladies like yourself, because it's really hard to believe, frankly, that you were ever awkward because of your poise and so forth. And so, but it does do that. And I saw that when I worked with the Asian young ladies, when we did leadership. My area for the Asia World Academy was to do the empowerment and the leadership. And then we had others who came in and did poise and fashion and speaking, you know, in front of audiences and so forth. And so being able to look at these opportunities with new eyes and new understandings and really to value them in a different way, I think is it's really part of what I wanted to talk to you about, that because we really need to help a lot of people out there
Right.
get better at valuing these um, events and these opportunities for our young ladies.
Right.
You've mentioned suicide prevention a couple of times. How did you get that as your passion?
So when I was 15, I lost one of my really good friends to suicide, and it was heart-wrenching. And it, like I said, I was from a very small town, and it completely threw our high school upside down because we had never experienced something like that. And my passion for suicide prevention actually came from realizing that I could make a difference in the lives of people who are struggling. So going back to education, I actually had the opportunity to partner with a foundation called the Jason Foundation. And Johnny, who I lost to high school, his family, had an opportunity to travel to the Texas Capitol and get the Jason Flat Act passed in Texas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it makes it mandatory for teachers to be trained in suicide prevention annually instead of just once before they can get their teaching certificate. So it's an incredible thing that I was able to be a part of. I got to testify on behalf of that act, and that was when my passion for it really began, because I saw that just by sharing my story and sharing my passion for preventing suicide, I was able to make a difference.
Well, and that's very maturing for young people to go down to Austin to be part of sort of your government,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, to understand that you don't win them all, right? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you do win them and
Mm-hmm.
big ones, right? In this case, you guys scored big in
Mm-hmm.
able to annually make a difference with
Yes.
teachers who then make a difference with kids. Have you, just by chance, I'm curious, gotten any numbers and research on how COVID has impacted suicide and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
since that's your passion? I'm just curious.
Yes. So I was actually reading an article the other day that stated that in young adults, suicidal thoughts since 2018 have raised 15%, which is mind blowing to me. And I actually have had the opportunity to sit down with a mental health professional who has told me that COVID pandemic has had a huge impact on our mental health and suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, and counselors aren't even able to keep up. And that's what's just horrifying, but also makes me believe that I have a place to help advocate for people who are struggling with mental health as well as suicidal thoughts, and hopefully be able to make a difference in their life. life.
Well, just by your chosen future profession you are, and that's done in addition to suicide prevention passion that you have. Talk a little bit about the book. How did the book happen?
So the book happened because I was seeing a disconnect between my ability to advocate for suicide prevention and work with kids. I think that it's so important for kids to be able to talk about their emotions and talk about them in a healthy way with counselors, with their school counselors. And so the message behind the book is to be able to talk to your counselor if you're struggling. So it's about two friends, Ruby and Henry, and they go through all of these different obstacles together. One day, Henry comes to school and he's not feeling well. And so Ruby tells him that he should go see the school counselor, or not the school counselor, the school nurse. And so he goes and he sees the nurse and she gives him some medicine and then he's able to feel better. And then he comes to school one day and he doesn't know how to answer one of the questions on his homework. And Ruby tells him, you should go see our teacher because he can help you with that question. And so he goes and he sees the teacher and they're able to work through that and get that taken care of. The third thing that he's struggling with is he's having a lot of anxiety and a lot of self-doubt. And in that instance, Ruby tells him that he should go see the counselor. And like I was saying earlier, it all goes back to being able to reach out for help if you are struggling. And that goes for everyone, not just kids.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's been a gift and a curse, frankly. We've never had so many kids and adults in need, and at the same time, we've never had so many resources available to them. My push has been, and anybody who follows my podcast knows that it is very regular now. Gosh, if I've talked about suicide prevention and suicide ideation once since I've been doing this almost 3 years, it's because it's, and I'm not talking about the fact that it's there. We know it's there. Mm-hmm. Getting people to use the resources available. Goodness gracious, the stigma that seems to be attached to going to a counselor. You know, I've been heard to say more than once, if we could get people as comfortable going to a counselor as people go to lawyers, you know, the banker when they have a need for that, then there wouldn't be maybe quite so many people staying in need, right? And I'm not saying it's going to cure all of mental health, but maybe we could get people not suffering as long because they're more comfortable getting resources that are now available. Goodness gracious. Now, you know, and I think I told you I ordered a couple of books because I want each of our elementary counselors to have one as part of their arsenal. So that's already on the way. But talk a little bit, because one of the things that many adults that are older than you try to do, and many of them say, I have a book in me. Mm-hmm. And you had a book in you, and you got your book out before you even graduated from from Baylor. Talk about that process, and people know, you know, was it the hardest thing you've ever done, or was it relatively easy?
Somewhere in between. So I actually decided to write Henry's Happy Heart at the beginning of the pandemic because I've had some free time on my hands. We were staying at home. We didn't have a ton of things to be doing. And so I was like, might as well use this time and write a book. And so it was easy and hard, a little bit of both, but I actually published through Amazon, which actually made the process a lot easier than it could have been. And I had an incredible illustrator that I worked with. We hit some bumps in the road, but we ultimately were able to overcome those. And I think being able to hold the book in my hand and see it for the first time just made everything that came in between me and getting it published worth it. So.
Sure. I published my second one. It took me years because of being so busy. When you work full time and have kids, and then it's just woof. But I persevered, and the publisher persevered and kept nagging me. And you're right that having that book in your hands and getting the occasional royalty check is not. But I mean, there's satisfaction. There's there's personal satisfaction in that. So what's next for you? You've competed in pageants, or I should say pageants. You are in college now. You have a strong goal. You've published books. What's in the future for you?
So I will actually be competing in the Miss Texas pageant this summer. So I am the current Miss Colleyville, and I will be working towards that for the next couple of months. It's coming up in June, and I'm really excited about that. I've been working super hard on just becoming the best version of myself so that I can present all of the best parts of me to the stage and to the audience and to the judges. And so just really focusing on protecting my own mental health. That's something that I've had to look at throughout this pandemic, as well as just becoming the best version of myself. And then there's also grad school. I will be graduating from Baylor in 2022. So I have a little bit more time left, but getting my certification so I can be a speech pathologist and hopefully continue to make a difference in the lives of children in Texas.
Well, and I'm sure you will. Look at what you've accomplished at this young age already. You have a lot of time left to make that difference that you want to make in several different ways. Since you've got a career that will be helping kids in one way, but then you also have the suicide prevention passion as well. So good luck to you. We thank you for coming on and sharing with us. We hope that motivates others who have that book in them as well to go ahead and get that done, because that's to make a difference with people both personally and through something like the book. That's priceless. So thank you for doing that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. We look forward to this summer. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Next, we will have on a nurse medic. I saw an article on what's happening in the nurse's office in these public schools during this COVID year. And it was like a light bulb went off, and I went, oh my goodness, I have not really talked lately to any nurses that are in the public school setting. I know that early on I had some nurses on to talk about, the protocols, the COVID protocols and what we need to be doing at school and at home. And probably it's at home because we weren't at school back then. But just all of these different medically related, but to COVID related issues that have really impacted the nurse's office. And so she wasn't able to join us in person, but let's go ahead and run that video of her while we chat. And to chat about what it's like to be, in her case, a nurse medic on a busy public education campus. And we welcome Cynthia Ferguson. Cynthia, how long have you been on a public education school setting?
I have been actually since 2012 when I first started with Legacy when they first opened up.
Okay, well, welcome to our show. And what caused me to reach out to you was the fact that we had an article, I just saw an article about the impact that COVID has had on the nurse office in a public school. And I know that nurses have been a vital part, but I thought, gosh, we need to have somebody on to talk about this and to talk about their role in this COVID year. So can you talk a little bit about what has been the impact that has been going on in your nurse's office?
Absolutely. It's totally been different from different sides. It's been different because I'm in the clinic, and of course we help the students when they have their little falls and skin knees and stuff. But nowadays, a headache is not just a headache. A stomach ache is not just a stomach ache. Fever, normally we would send them home when it was a certain degree. Fever is not just a fever. A cough, allergies is not just allergies. We have to take everything, and it's horrible to say assume, but we have to assume that it could possibly be COVID. So what we do here is, our policy is that we make sure that we still do our assessments, evaluations, but they will get sent home and need to quarantine. Now, if they decide they want to go to the doctor, several days later, the doctor says, well, it's not COVID, then, that's a different story. But as far as like seeing students, I think some students may have caught on and come with a headache, but we have to take what they say at face value. And some parents have not been happy about it because they're like, well, you're going to send my child home for a headache. You're going to send my child home. So we get to see the good side in helping these children and whoever the staff, but we also get to see the side of the parent's perspective. And I understand because I'm also a parent. Mm-hmm. But in this day and time, we have to look at things totally different.
And you're right. The article actually talks about that. They interviewed one of the nurses, and the nurse said she's been cussed out. She's been almost physically assaulted when the parents approached about, you've got to send your kid home for 14 days because he or she was exposed. They are furious because they just got back to work.
Yes. Yeah. So, and it's understandable, but we also have, we've pledged to our scholars and our staff that we're going to protect them and make sure that we have a safe environment for them. And that's part of it, the safety of their health.
So what are some of the other duties that you've had to do since COVID of last year that you didn't have to do before?
Oh my gosh, there's so much more paperwork.
Why?
There's so much more paperwork. We've always had to document, but there's a lot more paperwork. Every phone call that I get, documentation. If there's been somebody that called in and said that they were exposed, the contact tracing within our school. I took a contact tracing certification earlier during the year. Just the follow-up, keeping the notes. We've also been able to incorporate, our telemedicine doctor here, which has been nice. We haven't used it that often since we don't have a lot of students on campus, but we have used it several times, and it's helped, and it's made it nice because they will, they can do their part. Prescription, we can administer that with now having that doctor, but it makes a big difference. Just a little bit more of everything, the paperwork, like I said, the documenting, the follow-up, keeping track of who left on what day, when they're able to return, and just keep, it's a lot of little things coming from every which way. So there's just been a lot more documentation, a lot more paperwork.
Are you one of those districts that has been able to have free COVID testing?
Yes, we have partnered with TDM or the TEA, and also with an outside agency, Urgent Care Associates, who we've offered our staff and students that they are able to go and get testing. They log on to a link, they put in all their information, and then they are given a location and a time to go have that done. And then just recently, we have on campus, in our Mesquite campus, we have the standalone COVID testing there. Where staff.
There really is every opportunity for most districts and most staff and most parents to know whether they have COVID or not, free, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Correct. If they choose to want to find out. Some people are still scared because it is scary. And I think I heard somebody talking about, well, I really don't want to know unless I have symptoms and I know something's wrong. But if you know you've been exposed or think you've been exposed, or just for peace of mind, it's not as, I'm going to say it's not as bad, I think, as when it first started, because everybody has kind of gotten used to it. And most people who've had COVID testing have probably had it more than once.
Really?
Not COVID.
Not the COVID, but the testing. Yeah.
The testing,
I
yes.
know. Yeah,
Yes.
I've had to do it if I want to go to Puerto Rico to go recruiting or to come back from Mexico, I had to have it. So yes, I've done that 4 times, I think. So I've been to Puerto Rico twice. And so, yes, it's almost, But let me ask you this. Have you seen less flu and common colds in your office now?
Oh, yes. I can't even tell you if I've had somebody with the major runny nose, sniffles, major coughing. I can't. And I know it's attributed to the additional hand washing and
Oh, yeah.
social distancing. And, we've always known you wash your hands before this and that. But since COVID came around, and that's more, I mean, I guess it was more in your face that it's like, you need to do this, you need to do this if you want to stay safe. And then, of course, the school policy is, hand wash before they eat, before they leave the classroom, when they come in the classroom. So, or hand sanitizers until you get to that. So it's made a big difference.
Yeah, I've been amazed at how few people I've seen with something other than really allergies. I think I've seen some people with allergies, but that flu and cold season, winter just disappeared in it, and I didn't see it. And it's got to make sense. If you're going to do spatial distancing, if you're going to do the masks and the hand washing, there's got to be a difference in germ spreading. And I think we've seen that.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that, of course, is the big deal now are vaccines. What are you hearing from staff? Is staff pretty open to getting vaccinated? And you don't have to say names or anything, but would you say that most of your staff in your district are vaccinated by now or planning on getting vaccinated?
I would say you hear a mix of it. Most that I've talked to are going to get it. They just don't know when, because they were kind of waiting to see. They plan on getting it, is what I hear. We have some that just don't want it, and of course, everybody has to make that decision, within themselves. I don't know what the percentage is at the other campus, but I know on our campus, it's probably about 25 to 35% have already received their vaccine. And I know that we have some that still reach out to me, where can I go? Where can I go? And try to help them to get theirs, or they're scheduled already to get it done. Now, since it's opened up to everyone, even though it was opened up to, the teachers, now it's opened up to everybody. And I think just the mindset that they're starting to feel more comfortable about it. They've seen family, friends who may have received it, and they are doing okay at this time. So I think it makes a difference.
Well, funny enough, I feel like some staff have waited till their whole family could get vaccinated. Because I know that at our school district, when we sent out notice that educators could get the vaccine, one of the most immediate questions was, can I take my family? It's like, no, not yet, only educators. So I don't know if some staff feel guilty getting it and their family not getting it, but now that their spouse can get it, their whatever adults live with them can get it, and even maybe some of their older kids can get it. I think now they're more ready to make that leap to go as a family and get
Sure.
vaccinated. Are you sensing, and I'm just asking anecdotally, how are staff talking about next year? Are they ready to have kids all back and sort of get back to the new normal? It'll never be what it was before pre-COVID, but are they talking about being comfortable with that?
Yes, I've heard several, including myself, that I am so ready to get back to, like you said, our new norm. I'm ready to have students on campus, and it's for the mental health aspect. I mean, it's just, that's taking a toll on everybody, but to have all the students back in, to be able to help them and to get back to a little normalcy, it makes a big difference. So I have heard, I would probably say I've heard more than a couple of handfuls of people saying they cannot wait till next year. They cannot wait till next year. They cannot wait till next year.
Well, good. I'm glad people are anxious for next year, anxious to come back to something that resembles more of what we left before March of last year.
Right.
And so, But I don't know if you know that there are a couple of bills right now pending. One is not all schools in Texas have school nurses or have to have school nurses. And so there's a bill right now that would say that school districts have to have school nurses. And the other bill, interestingly enough, because that bill has been brought to the legislature before, but a lot of, especially your rural districts, your small school districts, they can't afford many times extra personnel, right? But now another bill is going to ask to have it possibly paid for out of safety money. A lot of money has come in to sort of get a campus or a district more safe. And now we can sort of save from not only active shooters and so forth, but now we can save from viruses and from Well, I don't know where the rest of that video was, but that is towards the end of the video. So let me mention that those bills need to be worked on and passed, hopefully, within the next 8 weeks, because the legislative session will be over at the end of May. So thank you, Nurse Medic Cynthia Ferguson, for coming on and sharing with us how the office of the nurse in public school settings has changed so much in the past year. And to reiterate, let me mention that the resources as far as COVID is concerned that have been made available to kids and parents are just really unheard of, right, before this year, now becoming more normal. But early on, we had clinics and labs who came to us and said, hey, can we give you a teledoc link where parents and staff can call in and can get to a doctor in their own home. They don't, they could come to school and the nurse can do it there as well. And the nurses have, in some public settings, a device, a laptop that will very quickly get to the teledoc opportunity. But if the child's too sick to come to school, then the parent could also access the link from home, or staff members, by the way, it's parents or staff members, and then talk to a doctor and ascertain whether the patient, whether child or adult, needs medication, for example, and so forth. So that is a new thing. And then another are these standalone places that, yes. Do I need to stop talking?
You're doing great, Dr. Good.
Okay. These standalone places that have the opportunity to take even a weekly COVID test for free. And so we have had, yes, these are sort of entrepreneurial people who are thinking, how can I use my business to help get our school children, our school parents healthier, our school staffs healthier, right? And so these fledgling businesses have popped up. And so some districts have an actual little lab that has been plopped down in their parking lot, and anybody can pop in. It's just not school personnel or school kids, but you have the opportunity to take a weekly COVID test in case you're one of those that would have it asymptomatically, right? So, wow, we just have so many opportunities to stay healthy. I talked last week about another way to stay healthy as far as eating well and keeping your immune system strong and all that. Before I forget, let me mention, on the lookout for some districts. Some districts have been celebrating, sort of commemorating, let me put it that way, commemorating the 1 year passing of this COVID year. And so they have sent a flyer out to different school districts to take part in a self-test at home. So if you register, and again, your district will let you know, they'll send the flyer home. But if you can register, and they will send you a free test kit to do at home, a self-done kit, a self-kit to take the COVID test at home. I mean, that's how easy it is now to find out if one has COVID, and to stay doing it. If you don't have COVID, stay doing what you're doing, right? Whether it's the social distancing and washing hands, wearing masks, and so forth. Gosh, so much controversy around the mask thing. Folks, if we have the basic understanding that when we wear a mask, especially in small settings like classrooms, stores, where we're in contact with people who are in contact with other people, you know, families and communities, it just makes sense to get comfortable wearing a mask when one is out, and hoping that others wear masks when they're out to keep you safe. Now, I'm going to predict that in the next couple years, we will move towards what is really more of an Asian practice. If you were to go to Asia, you would see that there are a lot of Asian people at certain times of year that wear a mask. And I've seen this, I've seen it in airports, and this is pre-COVID. I saw Asians wearing masks. That's because they already knew, they already have had this news of how viruses are passed and how they can protect themselves by wearing a mask. And so why not pick up that practice long term of, yes, we are going to have herd immunity. We are going to be able to, for the most part, not wear masks all the time in every setting, but especially if we come down with something that's not enough to keep us at home, but enough to probably be germy, let's wear a mask. Or if we know we're in a germy place, I'm gonna tell you, schools can be germy. You know, kids have germs, although they don't catch them as fast from each other as they give them to adults. And so over time, I think what we'll find is that we have adults who choose to wear masks, even when other adults choose not to, and that's okay too. And so as long as we all work towards trying to be safer, trying to be kinder, right? More understanding of each other, that'll help everybody, COVID or no COVID. Okay, so one of the things that I did last week was we talked about how parents need to be more college and career savvy, right? You need to start thinking with your kids about, what do I want my child, or how can I help my child know what he or she wants to do in college, and then beyond college, and so forth, right? Well, and interestingly enough, I saw an article, a parenting article this week that I thought I would share that sort of supplements or supports some of the chat from last week, and that is how to encourage your child's interests. A lot of what we're doing right now, of course, is to talk about how to get our kids to be college ready, but really we can't start in high school. We shouldn't even be waiting until middle school to start that. What we need to do is start as early as possible. So if you heard my my podcast last week, you know that this is just another way of supporting your child's future passion and how to do it. So let's see. Of course, we know that children are innately curious and creative. When given time to play, tinker, and explore, sooner or later they'll develop a keen interest in something specific. Some of you kids love soccer, martial arts, reading, making bracelets, making slime, all of those are interests early on, right? And interestingly enough, the making of slime and working with slime could lead to a science STEM career. It could. And so, understanding the ingredients that go into slime and what makes slime more slimy, more elasticy, less elasticy, and all of that, that's all science, folks. And so making sure that kids have that opportunity is part of our work as parents of younger children. So the first thing you need to do is pay attention, right? Pay attention to what they're interested in. And yes, they could be changing their interest. That's okay too, and that's normal also. But, they could be interested in slime until they're not interested in slime anymore. But, it's if we've ignited that curiosity around science, that is continuing that work of ours as parents to be on the lookout for how we can possibly create future scientists. How does your child spend their free time? What kind of books does he or she read? What is your child doing when they lose track of time? That's a great one, right? Notice where their true interest lies and take it from there. So once the interest has been identified, seek out books. Request a stack of books. Take them to the library. We have not thought of the library as our go-to place in the way that we used to back, 20 years ago. And so the libraries have really turned into media centers. And I think if you haven't been to a library in the last decade, you might want to pop in and see how they've changed and developed and really tried to keep up with modern times. Of course, no library, just like schools, have enough money to meet all the needs of all their learners, but certainly libraries are working hard to be more interesting to readers of all ages. Check new and used bookstores for titles that your children can dive into. Find books that approach the subject from different angles and books that are written for different age ranges, including adults, assuming appropriate content, obviously. And let's say that they have developed a passion for dinosaurs or sharks or butterflies, right? How about having a documentary night? There's documentaries on just about everything, right? And so let movie night become documentary night in your home. Whatever your child is interested in, I bet you can find a documentary that is on that subject. Get the whole family fired up about this interest by making it movie night out of it. And sometimes that's a way of showing fairness, right? Hey, it's our turn to show Johnny's a documentary this Saturday. Next week, we'll show Mary's. The week after that, we'll show even mom or dad's documentary passion. So it shouldn't just be about the kids, right? We need to model that we can be passionate about things as well. Maybe dad is going to have us watch a movie about Jacques Cousteau, who is sort of the inventor, founder of the scuba diving movement. That would be fascinating. That's a longtime passion of mine. I've been scuba diving since I was 13, and that's a while ago. And so I remember writing college essays on Jacques Cousteau back in the 70s, so a little bit ago. But that was my passion, still my passion. I went to go scuba diving in Cozumel at spring break. And and COVID has had a positive impact on not having so many cruise ships and so many visitors to the reefs. So, COVID is impacting so many things. Okay, documentary night, we talked about that, complete with popcorn and snacks. And I will tell you, there are some families, and there are many families in the United States that only show the History Channel documentaries, the Planet, I don't remember what the exact name of the channel is, but they just show their children, and their children are only allowed to watch History Channel or documentaries or things about the planet and the environment and so forth. All the other stuff is really not going to be something that probably furthers their career choices or their passions, because not only are many of the subjects for young kids silly, but they also are laden with sugar-laden commercials. So probably being able to encourage your kids to only watch things that are community impactful, environmentally impactful, will garner a whole lot of conversation between you and your children about what you're seeing. And let's see, field trips. If you figure out that kids love nature and taking photographies in nature, well, how about going to a art gallery that is showing somebody who is specializes in environmental photography, right? Going to the art museum and looking for different types of artists who have used different type of mediums to, I hate to say just paint, but to draw, paint, and using other media to show different environmental, whether it's plants, animals, people, and so forth. And so being able to explore the passion through field trips is something parents can do often much better than schools, because schools have to fund school buses and get permissions and take lunches, and not that it's not worth it, we do it, we just can't do it as often as probably parents can with only 2 or 3 kids. So we encourage you mightily to take kids on field trips more than schools are able to. Roll up your sleeves, and hands-on learning is a favorite for all kids. Roll up your sleeves and get work creating, making, and experimenting with this new interest. Ensure your child has all the tools necessary to tinker and thoroughly explore what has captured his or her interest. You know, I remember when I would make model airplanes with my father. I know he liked to do it, and he didn't see us as females, he saw us as just kids, and this was a good hand-eye coordination activity, and so we would do that. I have taken my grandkids on walks on the beaches, and we're looking for crabs at night with flashlights. We look for different seashells during the day. We dig holes in the sand and see what we see, right? What can we find? There's all sorts of opportunities for science walks. I know I have a 4-year-old grandson that loves to go on science walks with us, and he talks about our treasure box, and he will find things to put in our science treasure box because he thinks that's because that's an interest of mine, but what he doesn't realize is that that's now his interest as well, because I have worked with him on that. I've done it with him. We go walking together, and we explore together. So and the next one is share your world, and that's what I'm doing with my grandkids. As your child learns about his or her new interests, he or she may be enticed to share newfound knowledge and creations with others. For example, a baking interest definitely calls for cupcakes delivered to, neighbors or other family members. A photography interest will delight online friends or family. Writing interest may even lead to a self-published book. And certainly we heard from Mallory today that that was an interest she had. And finally, she had the time. She used her time wisely during the pandemic to write her book. Invite friends over for a themed party based on the interest. Branch out and share your delight with others. And so, you know, that's what childhood should be about, is having other kids maybe be part of your audience, whether it's making a play together, karaoke together, doing a video. Even kids are podcasting now. They're taking part in video games where they have to oh my gosh, what did my grandchild tell me? They, you can somehow, there's certain apps where you can take part in the app. It's just amazing to me. And as long as they're monitored by the parents and they're not sucked in for too long and schoolwork goes on the side because of that. But that is all, gosh, so many things that we have to offer kids today to be able to enhance. And then the last thing is take it to the next level. As the sparks turns from a flame to a roaring fire, it may be time to kick things up even further. Might this interest become a business venture? Would formal study or public blog be in order? The sky's the limit when it comes to encouraging and supporting young children with their interests. As a bonus, when children are engrossed in something they truly enjoy and explore, it tends to lead to more learning and more fundamental academic learning than what you would expect through the schools. So let's say, and I'll just give an example, let's say that you have a child who has a passion for helping the homeless. And we've all read about that, right? We have the occasional child who wants to make a difference with homeless. So they think of a fundraiser. They come up with a way of getting people involved so that the child can gain funds to get whether coats for the winter or food under a bridge or something. All of that can be fueled and is fueled usually by adults who are standing by and listening and helping support that child's interest. And eventually that child, because of what they're doing at a very young age, will more than likely turn out to be a very supportive, volunteer-oriented adult because of the support that those interests got when that child was young. Oh, as always, our time together flies, and we're reaching the end of our time for this week. Let me encourage you as an activity with your kids. I was going to read something from one of the sources that I pull from. They have a 14-year-old boy who sends in articles for the kids section of this resource. And I was going to read about rabbits. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm not going to read what Adrian has written about rabbits. I'm going to encourage all parents during this Easter Sunday, if, not so much because it's Easter, but because rabbits seem to be the springtime and so go-to animal for this time of year. Encourage your kids to research rabbits and see what interesting facts they can come up with as far as different types of rabbits, how big and how small can rabbits get? Does every country in the world have rabbits? Are they, what do rabbits eat? Where do rabbits live? All of that stuff, because it's just timely, right? And I don't know about you, but I know that when I leave here at 6 o'clock in the morning to go work out, I see several rabbits. And so I know that most of you are also seeing rabbits around this time of year. And so it might just be an interesting way to keep conversation going, those research skills that we want to develop in our kids, and to be able to talk to our kids about that. That's priceless, folks. So thanks for being on today. I hope that you left a little bit more educated and in some of the great things happening in public education and by people who were in public education. Mallory Fuller had a great public education experience to the point where she is now going to graduate next year with a degree and a skill to be able to help with our special needs kids. Plus, she has also has a book for elementary children on helping prevent suicide. And again, from a small town. So small town, big town, public education is making a difference with kids. And so we hope that you're leaving understanding that although we are making a difference, always need the support and the advocacy that all of you need to give us, especially during the legislative season, so that legislators can keep hearing from us how important it is to keep funding fully our schools and our teachers and our kids. All right, everyone. You have a great Sunday, and we'll see you back next week.